Hi everybody, it's PJ from Wisconsin Airgunners, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to my long-term review of the Sightmark Wraith thermal. I've got it mounted here on my 22 cal AirMaks arms Krait, and I've been using this thermal for well over a year now, and really looking forward to bringing to you what is kind of an overdue long-term torture test on this thermal unit. And just before we get into the role of what this is capable of, I do, and I hate to say that I need to, but I do need to mention that this is a pest control video. And so if that's not your thing, I would go ahead. It's a great unit. You've seen what you need to see. I would go ahead and turn it off. Honestly, there's really no reason to have a thermal mounted on an air gun unless you're doing some kind of pest control. And if you have to do pest control in suburban or rural adjacent to suburban places, this has been great. The AirMaks, very precise, very reliable. The Sightmark Wraith, as you're going to see in the remainder of this video, really is an excellent thermal optic. And then the Donnie FL Tatsu keeps this combination very, very quiet. So remember, it's a pest control video. Let's see some of that. Clear? A while back, while I was dealing with some family stuff, I was hit with another issue, and that was a family of raccoons taking up residence in my attic and causing an extensive amount of damage. And working with the pest control, sort of in the building pest control professional, because I was not in a position to just take care of business myself. But the raccoon family, the mother in particular, was engaged in a, well, the professional that we engaged to take care of the problem called it ranching. Essentially, a raccoon will identify a location where it knows other creatures are nesting. In this case, squirrels. There were squirrels nesting in my attic. The raccoon knew about it, so the raccoon would pay a visit to the attic when the squirrels were doing their thing, and then basically in my attic teach its young hunting of young squirrels above. How I didn't know this was going on absolutely blows my mind, but apparently there was evidence of it happening. There's a squirrel problem on my property in my attic, so there were a number of things that were done to sort of seal things up, but there still are a lot of squirrels in my neighborhood. I have southern oaks, so if you follow me on Instagram, you know the war has been on for a while. It's been ongoing, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down at any point in time. So I because the raccoons were mostly operating at night, coming out and going in, I reached out to some friends of mine out in Utah, and they were able to send over this Wraith as an option for me to try to help with that mission. And you know, I set it up, and it did exactly what it needed to do at all hours of the day or night. And I've left it on the gun to record sort of the rest of the fight that's been going on. And there are a couple of things that I've learned, like over the last year and a half, about working with a thermal on an air gun. A lot of the thermal videos that you see out there are doing things like hog hunting or coyote hunting. And a lot of the people who are doing that shooting are shooting with things like 223, which has a relatively flat trajectory over a long period of time. So if you're shooting any of those centerfire rifle rounds, the variance, high to low on a, let's say 50 to 150 or 75 to 200 yard shot, that variance really probably isn't more than a couple inches. And when you're taking heart-lung shots at, larger animals like hogs and coyotes, you have a pretty good sized kill zone. And as long as you're within that, you're going to put that animal down safely, humanely. Everything's taken care of. Air gunners know that there's a little more of a challenge than that. If you have an air gun that's zeroed at 30 yards, what you have to hold for a 6-yard shot is going to be very different from what you have to hold at a 10-yard shot or a 15-yard. I mean, like, all of these require different holds. So learning to work with a thermal using an air gun is a little bit more of a learning curve. And you've got a couple of choices. So one would be, if you're in a place where you're going to be a fixed distance to the target. Let's say you're out shooting rats and you know where they're coming out and you know where you're going to stand. Maybe you've got the gun on a tripod. You could zero for that distance, and then everything's going to be fine for that shooting session. I do want to show you something that I learned working with the Wraith that I thought was pretty cool. What I found was, because you have a front focus ring, what I found is that if I zeroed at 20 yards and then I used the focus to check where I was striking at different distances, I actually found a couple of reference points that corresponded to the subtensions on the reticle that I had chosen. So basically, this air gun is zeroed at 25 yards. And I know where I'm focused at 25 yards. And then if I'm shooting in closer, I have another point where I know I'm at 10 yards. And I know that 10 yards is the first bar down on my reticle. And if I'm closer than 10 yards, right, I have to focus a little bit past that. I know I have to hold up just even a little bit more. So the daytime shooting isn't so much of an issue, because if you are using a rangefinder during the day, you're going to get accurate results. If you're spotting things in the dark, you can't use a traditional rangefinder. So basically, I've kind of done like a field target sort of approach to this, where I've got a couple of yard markers here that correspond to things in my backyard. So I know, if I don't know the range off the top of my head, I can use what's essentially a parallax adjustment, a focus adjustment, to get to a shooting solution that, as you're going to see here, takes care of business. So let's check out some more clips. So as far as using the Wraith goes, I love how simple it is. You basically have a D-pad on the top. It's got a center button and then a forward arrow, a back arrow, right arrow, left arrow. And that's what you use to control all the things. The center powers it on, powers it off. To power it off, you have to hold the power button down, that center button down, as it goes through kind of a, do you really want to shut down sequence on the screen, and then eventually after about 5 seconds it turns off. I know that the Gotta have it in my hand. The far right button, the right arrow, that will put it into recording mode. So if you're trying to record your shots, you have to remember to push the button. I think this unit does have a recoil activated video where it's kind of looping, and then when it senses the recoil, I don't think that, I've never tried that feature because I really don't think it would work particularly well on an airgun. So that's not one I can really talk about. But I do really like the simplicity with which the unit works. The menus are not super complicated. The zeroing is relatively easy. I would recommend using a bipod and a rear bags. That'll help you. You basically shoot a target and then you use an XY coordinate system to move the crosshair over to where it actually hit. These systems are not super hard to use, but they can be a little bit fiddly, and while like it is theoretically possible to do a one-shot zero, I tend to find that I'm like shooting, moving it in, shooting, moving it in, and then after 3 or 4 shots maybe getting zero. If I were to take this off and put it on another gun, I guarantee, and it's not because it's hard, but I guarantee I would grab the manual and go through and have that in front of me when I did it. It's just that I haven't had to do it at all. Like I did it once, set it up for this gun, and it's been over 1.5 years, and I haven't had to touch the zero at all. I mean, it's a credit to the setup, the entirety of the setup, but I've also changed batteries, and it doesn't, at least if I pull the batteries out, put the batteries in, I've never let it sit with no batteries for long periods of time. But basically it's held zero through battery changes, and I just haven't had to go back and do it. So I haven't zeroed it a lot. I set it up once, and it's been good for a long period of time, which is awesome, right? I mean, if you're swapping stuff around, I guess you want the zero process to be easy, and I'm not saying it's hard. I'm saying I haven't had to do it a whole lot, so it wasn't hard to do. It just, I haven't had to do it again, so I'd look at the directions. I love the size of the unit. It is really light, and it's like, as it sits on top of the Airgun, it's basically the size of a dollar bill. Obviously it's thicker, right? But it's about the size of a dollar bill. So it does not take up a whole lot of space. It doesn't add a lot of weight. And when I'm using a compact bullpup like this for backyard pest control, that's what I want. I want lightweight, I want maneuverability, and I want it to be quiet, and I want to be able to hit the target. And this setup is allowing me to do all of those things. Let's watch a few more pests. All right, let's talk about battery life a little bit. This unit does use the non-rechargeable lithium, I think it's the CR123 or something like that. Those little guys that are reasonably expensive. They're not rechargeable. However, I would rate the battery life on this in the excellent category. I would say I'm probably using a set of batteries for at least 6 to 8 months. Now, I am not sitting outside glassing a field for hours at a time, for coyotes. I'm using it more sporadically when I know that there is something present, and I'm turning it on, taking the shot, recording it, and then powering it down for the most part. But I actually was very impressed by the battery life. When I got it and I saw what kind of batteries it uses, like, oh boy, I'm gonna wind up, buying these in bulk and going through them like crazy. I actually bought a big pack, like a 12 pack. I have since then used a total of 4 batteries. I think I've had a total of 6 batteries in this unit in the entire time I've been using it. And so it has seen lots of use, and I don't, it's sipping that battery power. It's not burning through things. So I would rate the battery consumption as very low. It's good. Like it's the way you want batteries to last a long time. The upside of them being not rechargeable is if they die on you, there are loads of 24-hour stores where you could just go get another set of batteries. And they're not proprietary, and you don't have to wait for them to charge, or, did I order the one with the button top or not the button top? Like, you don't have to worry about them being right. You can just go to a big box store and you can get another set if you need to. Let's watch some video with fresh batteries. While we're on the topic of batteries, there is a little lever here, a little flap rather, and you can run this off an external USB charger box if you want. So you have that opportunity if you're out for an extended period of time. And this bigger flap then covers the SD card. There are some particular specifications on a lot of these units. My recommendation is, if you buy one of these, make sure you check the manual, because sometimes like a scope won't take a card of too low rate, write rate. I'm not a tech guy, but these cards are sort of graded on how fast they can go. So you need to get the right speed card. And some of them, if you put a card with too high capability, like the Enormo terabyte card or something like that, some of them are limited. They'll only work with a 128 gigabyte card. So check the manual. That could change based on firmware, but buy a card that meets the specifications for the unit you're using. For what it's worth, I've got a SanDisk Extreme 64 gigabyte card, and I haven't had any problems with this running in this unit. It's been flawless, and the recordings show that. So let's take a look at another one. All right, so getting towards the end, I guess time to wrap up with the things, pros and cons, because it is a review after all. So the things I really like the small form factor. I mean, I don't have it on here right now, but it comes with a rubber eyepiece, and I knocked it off at some point and just haven't bothered to put it back on. A lot of the shooting I've done with this has been in daylight. No, by the way, you can use a thermal in daylight. No different than anything else. It's just gradients of heat. And this unit, even in hot Florida summer, as you've seen in some of the videos, this, like, you can definitely see a squirrel in hot Florida weather. So, I mean, a lot of these shots were taken on days where the ambient temperature was between 90 and 100 degrees, and that squirrel stands out against the tree just fine. So no issues there. Most of the clips you've seen are either black hot or white hot. Those tend to be the color palettes I used, but this does also have some other ones, including like a greenish one and, you know, the funky rainbow one. There may be a clip or two that I've got in those color palettes, but I don't know. I tend to pick one that like just works for me and it lets me see what I need to see easily. So I'm just not into the funky colors all that much. So most of what you've seen is the white hot or the black hot, and you can obviously tell the difference between those two. I really have been impressed by the build quality of this. It is a little brick. It is not super heavy, but the simplicity of the design, there's, you know, nothing that's breaking. I'm not easy on my equipment. This has been tossed in the back of the car, and you know, just keeps working. And absolutely, this has held, like I said, I've zeroed this once, and it has held zero through all that time. So very impressed there. So on the side of things that maybe I'd like to see different, it does take a few seconds to start up and about 5 seconds to shut down. It'd be great if those times were a little bit closer. In practical use setting, the only time that would ever trip you up is if you had it totally off and, I don't know, grabbed it off the rack and then there was something right there. Obviously, if you're using a pure optical scope, that, you know, like, you just look through it and it's on, right? This, because it's got an on and off switch, a battery, you hit it, get a logo, and now it's on. So however many seconds that was. And when you want to turn it off, you know, it's press the button, hold it. Do you want to power off? Hold it. And now it's off. The how do I record once you memorize what button it is super simple. It's the one that's pointing to the right. So it's over there. You hit that, it starts recording. Super easy. It does have some digital zoom, so you can, you know, kind of go a little bit closer, back and forward. I'll be honest with you, I'm loving how simple the unit is. Turn it on, know where you need to hold for a particular distance and take the shot. And it is super easy to work with. I would like a rechargeable battery option. I mean, that'd be a plus because I don't like to buy batteries. However, they picked a battery that's like universally gettable. like you can get one anywhere, so that's good. And the battery life really is good, and I didn't have any issues. Sometimes I worry, I don't know if the worry is founded or not, but I worry that when I'm changing the battery, now I got to go back and re-zero, you know, which isn't exhaustive, but it is a thing you have to do. I put a new battery in, checked the zero, it held. It was perfectly fine. No need to change battery in order to get zero. So yeah, a rechargeable battery would be nice, but it's not a deal breaker in my opinion on this unit. Well, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this review of the Sightmark Wraith Thermal. If you are looking to get one of these, check out my friends out in Utah. I know they can help you out with not just this, but other latest and greatest items that they have in their catalog. And if you have questions about this unit in particular, put them down in the comments. And until the next video, everybody, shoot safe, shoot straight, and we'll see you around.